We have like 1.8 million users and there's 16,000 paying users.
This is Marie. She just hit 5 million a year with her SaaS Tally. But it wasn't an overnight success.
We did everything ourselves for 3 years, I would say, before we hired someone. In the first years, I had 2 pregnancies. I wasn't able to work to put in the hours that I can right now.
It took them a year to reach 5k MRR, another one to reach 10k MRR, and then something changed.
You hear everyone talking about the SaaS apocalypse and we're not going to exist anymore. We're kind of seeing the opposite thing for now.
They went from 1 million a year to 5 million a year in the past 12 months thanks to one thing. In this episode, you will discover the distribution flywheel that got Tally to 1 million a year, why you should stop adding features to your product right now, and the one thing that 5x their revenue almost overnight.
Everyone can build nowadays, but I don't think everyone can sell their product.
So, Marie, in 2022, you said, we launched Tally a couple months ago before our baby girl was born. The dream was to build a sustainable lifestyle business to provide for our future family. She just turned 2, and we are paying the bills with our own bootstrap company. Back in the day, I think you were making in between 30 to 40k MRR. Today, you make 10 times more, 400k. So my question, and I think a lot of people will want to ask you that, how does it feel to have built such a startup and be successful?
Oh wow, I completely forgot about that. That I've written that. It's pretty special. I think that was one of the most special moments in this journey. How does it feel? I think that describes it pretty well. We just had this idea of what if we can become one of those successful indie hackers that can just make a living out of building a product, which is just something we like to do. And when I say we, I mean Filip and I. Filip is my technical co-founder, also partner in life. And it's just this dream we had of what if we can make money out of building, a product and having a recurring income and not having to become consultants and sell our time, but just, build something, which is something we both enjoyed doing. So that was the idea behind it. And the biggest goal at the time was to be able to live and pay the bills with 2 people. And indeed, we had just started building our family as well. We have 2 kids now. So we had this number in mind, like what if we could make like 10k or 20k a month? That would be more than what we earned at the time. And we could pay the bills and we're our own boss, and we can travel and we can become digital nomads and go to Bali. That was the plan. It turned out quite differently, but the business definitely became more successful than we could have ever imagined. We're a bit in a different situation right now. We have a team, we go to the office every day. There's 10 people now working on Tally. Yeah, we just reached 5 million ARR, so it's things have changed, and it's definitely still as exciting, but it became different. I think we're more like building a company now instead of only building a product with just people, with just 2 people. And that also brings different challenges. But yeah, I did not expect to be here today when I was writing the article.
Well, let's talk about your background then. Like, what did you do actually before starting Tally?
I studied marketing and I worked. When you graduate in Belgium, I'm from live in Belgium. I just went to work for like the biggest media company in Belgium, which at the time seemed like a great opportunity. So yeah, big corporate, started at the bottom, like kind of climbed my way up there, did all kinds of different jobs. Had a lot of fun, but then also realized that the whole corporate thing was not really my vibe, and then ended up more in the tech community. Started working for a digital product studio, so basically a company that builds mobile applications at the time. websites and platforms for smaller and bigger companies. Worked there for a bit, basically surrounded by 100 engineers, but also on the marketing side. Um, and when I met Philip, I think it was in 2017, uh, he was building another startup. So he's a full stack engineer, also, designs, builds, owns everything product-wise. Uh, we kind of thought like, hey, we maybe have complementary skills.
Mhm.
We're both kind of dreamers by nature. Like, what if we can do something together and living out of that? That's kind of how I ended up in the startup space. So it's not like I've built a lot of other products before. I've always just had a pretty regular job, but I always liked creating things and starting from scratch and like imagining, how this idea could look like and how to build it. And it's always been pretty passionate about that. So I think I felt pretty attracted to startups in general, but never really had the balls to make the jump. And Philip
Mhm.
did. He's been building since he was 11, been coding, has had tons of side projects, startups. So yeah, I guess we both had a bit of a. We started quite late, I think we were past 30 already. We started then. So we both had quite some experience, but in different fields.
Was Tally the first project you built together?
No, no. The whole idea was we were going to build a marketplace that connects hotels and travel influencers to help like small boutique hotels to market their properties and also to help travel influencers to make money and have collaborations and travel. So that was the idea. It was called Hotspot. We had the idea when we were traveling. We were in Mexico years ago on a beach, and as you do when you're on a holiday, like dreaming about how our lives could look like. Um, Becoming a digital nomad and moving to Bali. I don't know if you're still located
Yeah,
there.
still there.
Kind of what that was the dream at the time, and we thought this is the perfect project to do that. Um, but we both still had our other full-time jobs, so we started as a side project, and then we said if we can find I think we said if we can find 100 hotels that would like it, so we just send a form actually. If they would like it, like if they would be interested in the idea, then we're gonna build it. So we came back, we like scraped Instagram, made a list, pitched the idea, and then we had quickly had like over 100 hotels that were interested, but just yeah, it was pretty naive as well, the way we validated it at the time. But anyway, we started building it as a side project. So at one point, we had some paying customers. We figured out some ways to do cold outreach and to get new ones and to get hotels. And we thought like, hey, maybe we can make this into a bigger thing. And then I decided to quit my job. Philip is then also already working full time on it. But that was beginning 2020. COVID happened. And we were actually on our way to Bali. So did we had like a pit stop in Bangkok. We were there for a week or two, and then all the borders closed. We kind of had to decide like what do we do, and we just jumped. There was like one more plane. We went back to Belgium, and then we went into lockdown for the next year. Yeah, not to- Exactly. And so we lost customers. Yeah, we couldn't sell to anyone. Hotels were closed. And I was traveling. And in the beginning, we thought like, how long can this take? We'll just work a bit more behind the scenes, and in a few months, when the market recovers and the borders open again, we will be ready. Which obviously didn't happen. And then by summer, we said, okay, we need to do something else. So then on Fridays, we would like order cocktails. It was something you could do back in during COVID because we couldn't leave the house, but there were like bars delivering cocktails at home. So we decided to try that. And then we had like brainstorms with some alcohol. at one day, Tally came up. We were like talking about forms and how we've used a lot of forms, and we've used forms for Hotspot as well. And I had used like HubSpot and Typeform and Google Forms, and either like or free, we didn't like the design, or really loved products like Typeform, but pretty expensive at the time. So we thought, what if there's something like the Notion of forms, because we also started using Notion and we loved, still do love Notion. What if there's like a simple form builder that basically goes in this very outdated industry, but just makes it simpler and makes it more attractive, innovates on pricing and UX. So that was the idea. The initial idea was a lot more complex as well. We were going to build a CRM, and we thought that just a form builder would not cut it. But then we started building and we said, okay, let's just keep it simple and see where we get. Yeah. 5 years later, we're still just building forms.
So this idea of keeping things simple is still something that you have. You're always against building new feature, or you challenge the fact
Yeah.
that it's important or not to build new feature. What is it so important for you to keep it simple?
It's kind of embedded in everything we do, and I think it comes from the idea of not wanting to have a big team. So it was just us two building for a while. Now we're a team of 10, but we don't really see the team growing a lot anymore. So we keep it intentionally small. I also believe once you have more than 10 people, the job kind of changes. There's different dynamics you need to manage and so on. We just like to build. So when you have a small team, things need to be simple, especially if you want to serve. We're getting close to 2 million people using Tally. We're just a team of 10 people behind it. So I think keeping things simple just enabled us to do more with less resources, and it also just allows us to move a bit faster and makes it easier to make decisions. Um, the simplicity is also USP of Tally. The design is very simple. We don't want to like bombard you with all these features that you're not going to use. The pricing is very simple. It's either free or you pay 29. There's not that much in between. Um, the way we communicate is very simple, simply because there was no ChatGPT or Claude at the time, so it was all just me writing it. But then also keeping the product simple made sure that we had less customer support, right? Because we offer support to all our users, also the free ones. And if you want to do that with a small team, the product needs to be mainly self-serve. And then probably the most important one is we built Tally, and we chose forms because they are viral by nature. And you make forms to share with someone else, and that's our biggest growth engine, right?
Mm.
So if you want to compete in this super competitive market as just a bootstrap, duo without any marketing budgets, we had to find our edge somewhere else, and one is in pricing, right? So we offer like unlimited forms for free, which is something that not a lot of people, and submissions for free, which is something that not a lot of players were doing at the time. But also the builder by itself looks pretty different. It's very Notion-like, just type and you start blocks. And so there's very little friction. It's really easy to create your first form, and that's pretty important if we want to get new users in. We want to show them the value that they get as fast as possible, and then they share forms, they talk about it, and that's how we grow. So it's kind of core in everything we do. Uh, so we try to keep things simple, and at the same time, I think it's also the hardest thing to do.
Mhm.
If we have a lot of discussions, if it's really easy to go on these side quests or to build something that was, you might think it will work, but you're not really sure, or you'll spend 3 days on automating something that, might not really be necessary. So in everything we do, we're like, is this really useful? Is this the one thing that will move the needle today? And how can we simplify it? Like, how can we take the first most simple step? So it just helps us in how we work, how we build, how we sell.
Quick one. I'm looking for 30 founders already doing between 5K to 50K MRR who want to push their SaaS to 100K MRR together. I'm launching profitable founder community. Weekly group calls, monthly Q&A with founder who already reached that goal, and a private community for daily conversation. The goal is to build a mastermind of hungry founders who will push each other to reach that goal. The first batch is capped to 30 founders only. So if you're in, you can already apply by clicking on the link in the description. And I will get back to you when the first batch is ready. Now, back to the episode. I saw today that you launched a new feature, which is Tally to PDF. So,
Yes.
in the same idea, how do you decide what features you should build or not?
This is a funny one because I said no to this feature for 5 years. I'm like, PDFs, who uses PDFs? But it was the most requested feature ever. So apparently a lot of people want the form submissions to be turned into a PDF. You can use it then. I mean, it opens up a lot of use cases. You know, you can create contracts and anything. How do we decide? We usually, so the simplicity comes back. We're like, okay, can we keep it simple? Like, can we ship the simple version in a week or two? And how do we do that? Can we offer it for free? Because that is how we grow. We try to offer as much value as possible for free. Some features are too expensive, right, to offer for free. And then also, does it fit into Tally's vision of we just want to build the simplest form builder out there? We don't necessarily want to become a suite of tools where you can do all kinds of things like e-signing, and so on.
Mhm.
That's not the idea. We just want to build the best possible form builder. And actually, the PDF is a bit of an exception there because I felt like it's not really a core form building feature. You know, there's other tools for that. You can use Zapier, Make, or NA10, and you can build it yourself. But the fourth thing we listen to is the users, and if it's requested by the users, which this one has been requested thousands of times, yeah, it means that they want it, and so it's a combination of all those things that help us decide on the roadmap. But the most important thing is, does it come back in customer support tickets? You know, has it been requested? We have this public upvoting board. By now we have years of data, so we know pretty well what to build.
So there is something really complicated for someone who starts a SaaS is to get actually feedback from the customers. Like that's something that we all know we should do, but it's really hard to
Yeah.
get them. It's hard to get them on a call. It's hard to contact them. How did you find the secret for that?
I don't know if it's the hardest thing. I just think it's something that a lot of people maybe don't want to do because
Mhm.
it just also takes a lot of time and energy, and it's often very confronting, right? Sometimes you're building in this bubble and you're like, I have this great idea, and then someone just takes it down with one sentence of feedback. It's also not very fun, but it's crucial, and I think to know if you're building the right thing. For us, we started by just sending DMs to people on Twitter, people we found on Product Hunt, people we found on Indie Hackers, like people that we thought might be builders or founders or designers or might be interested in this type of product, and we would just ask for feedback. Obviously, because the product was free, that was pretty easy because anyone could just enter. Um, And then the people who replied, I would just ask them to join our Slack channel. So in the first 3 years of Tally, anyone who had used the product could join our Slack channel. And that was for us the easiest way to just talk to people one-on-one. Also do it a bit at scale because going on phone calls is quite time consuming. Not
Mhm.
everyone wants to, be on a video call or pick up the phone. So we thought that Slack would be the best medium. People would join. And then we would say like, hey, what did you think? Did you try it out? And then they would give us feedback. And then we would just build whatever they asked. And the next day we would be like, hey, John, it's here, it's live. And then people would be amazed, right? Because oh, like this actually just happened. People would use Typeform or Google Forms. I don't know if you've ever tried to contact the support team of those companies. It's impossible. I don't know, they might
Mhm.
not even exist. It's just impossible. And so this like actually listening and acting on it, I think helped people realize like, oh, they're actually listening to the feedback. Uh, and that also turned the early users really in promoters. So they would share the word and they would tell their friends and their colleagues. And so we kept on doing that for, I think it was the first 3 years. So we would answer everyone on Slack, on email, via DM, on any channel, um, ourselves within the hour if we were awake. Uh, and then we would keep manually track of everything those people said. So there was no upvoting because we were really scared to lose context. So we just had this database in Notion. And I would say, oh, talk to this person. He also mentioned that he would like more customization options, right? Okay, talk to this other person today. And so this, for years, that shaped the roadmap. Now we would just ship whatever was being requested. And if it, of course, fitted into, is it simple? Can we offer it for free? And so on into our criteria. I I think that's how we managed to get a lot of feedback, and we still do. After year 3, it became too much because there's so many people asking stuff, and you get like so overwhelmed that you also cannot build anymore. You also constantly feel like you're doing a bad job because you only hear the negative feedback. So then we decided to close the Slack channel. We still have it. We're actually thinking of reopening it now that there's a team. So there's like 3 or 4,000 people in it. We still share everything with them. We still ask for feedback, but we closed it for new users because it just turned into this 24/7 live chat, and that was also not sustainable.
Do you offer anything in this Slack channel, or is like purely about Tally and how to improve Tally?
It's just this, yeah. We have beta users in there, so they get like early access. But it's purely what did you build with Tally? Us saying like, hey, this is new. This is what we're working on.
Mhm.
We're doing some meetups now. Is there anyone based in London? Because we're going to London. It's simply this. Only Tally. Yeah.
But you embraced the building public since the beginning. On your blog, we can read all the new milestones. For example, there's a blog post right now about what you did from 4 to 5 million ARR. Is it something you think that helps you get these people who are actually interested enough to go in the Slack and ask you for features, or do you think this is completely separated?
I think it might have helped a bit, but I don't think it was the main driver. The building in public is something we did just because it was pretty common in like on indiehackers.com that you would just share your milestones and what you learned, and that's how we started. So it was in the beginning, it was more like a way of giving back. Like we would also only post it on the indie hackers platform. I was not on Twitter, I was not on LinkedIn. It was only after a while that I thought, hey, maybe this can be useful content for other people as well. So it was more like a way of documenting the journey, and I kind of like the idea of keeping a blog and then reading back, years later. I do think, and especially today, it creates this more like transparency and trust, right? Because we do share a lot, and you kind of take users on your journey. So it might have helped, but I think the thing that helped more was that the product was free. That the product itself is the biggest acquisition channel, right? Like you discover Tally through filling out a Tally form, and then us just like obsessively talking to users and this. I think that helped more than the building in public. I think building in public serves a different purpose. Like it helped us grow an audience. It definitely helped us find new users. But it's I don't think it gave us more feedback than we would have had. It's more like our way to share the story. You could see it as a way of content marketing as well, right? We're building a startup. Someone else might be doing this and might be a few steps ahead or behind. Might be useful for them. But I think it helps with transparency, and for us, it also helped to differentiate us a bit. Like, we're more like the underdog, we're the small
Mhm.
team, we're bootstrapped. There's just not that many similar form builders out there. So it just kind of like reinforces the story and the fact that, we're different than some of the other form.
So under my eyes right now, I have your MRR chart, and I want to talk about two things: the before 2025 and after 2025. The before 2025 is a stable growth, kind of, still
Yeah.
amazing growth. I want to know what were the biggest key lessons that you got from all these years of building Tally. It can be like how to reduce churn, how you found a distribution channel, or whatever.
Yeah, I think that the boring thing about the Tally story is that it's a lot of the same. And I think the biggest thing we learned is that not that many people stick around for 5 or 10 years, to see the growth happening. I think it's not an overnight success. It's not you've interviewed people that go from 0 to 10 million in a month. It's nothing like that, right? It's 5 million in 5 years. Most of that revenue was generated in the last 2 years. Um, I think what we learned is that the most important thing was to be a bit stubborn and to show up every day and to keep on doing what we're doing. And we really religiously believed in this viral loop that we created, which is also showing off now. It's like the more people use Tele, the more we can offer for free. The more people will discover Tally, will also create forms, and that's just how we grow. It's this product-led growth. It's this flywheel that can only get bigger. It's really hard to stop something like that, and so I think that's the power of it. What we learned is that it's really important for us to stick to our principles of keeping things simple, but also keeping it largely free. So the good thing about not having investors on board is that we never raised prices and we always kept on offering a lot of value for free, even when we were not really making a lot of money. And I think that's just compounding. It has helped us grow, but it's really sticking to that, like to the simplicity of Tally is simple, Tally is free, and Tally is us. It's us building in public, it's being transparent, it's sharing everything. And it's only building something that we truly believe in. So whenever we do something that doesn't feel 100% right, it usually also doesn't work. So it's like just learning to stick to the plan, execute it, and try to try to keep up as long as possible. I think that's what helped us. There hasn't been like acquisition channel wise, we've tried a few things. We tried ads, didn't really work for us. We didn't really invest in SEO from the start, which I think was a mistake. And obviously the biggest change in what happened to Tally and the growth has been LLM starting to recommend us. That's something we saw early 2025, I guess. Maybe March 2025, when we suddenly saw more and more people mentioning, hey, we found you through ChatGPT. And we thought, hey, that's interesting. Like, how did that happen? And we have this very simple onboarding flow where we just ask, who are you and where did you find us, right? And we just said, let's just add AI and let's see. And like we saw more and more people clicking it. And then we said, okay, let's add like an extra field. Like if they click AI, could you just share a bit more? Like what's the prompt you use? Which AI assistant were you using? And then we saw this massive peak in it was like self-attributed data, just people mentioning mostly ChatGPT. Then we thought, oh, how does this happen, right? And we learned it was a combination of us being very active on social media, but also Reddit throughout the years. Like we've been very actively working on social listening and trying to pitch Tally in relevant conversations, mostly on forums, mostly on Reddit. And so that kind of apparently, kind of worked for us. Now we had this super elaborate help center that it wasn't really optimized for search or anything like that. It just was made from the idea of we don't want to answer any question twice, right? Like the product needs to be simple, and if we get questions, it needs to be documented in the help center. And so it became quite of a big chunk of content already. And those pages were very, pretty dry. They just explain how everything works, and those were starting to be picked up. So that I think that's the moment where we thought, hey, maybe we should just look how does this work? Like how do you optimize for ChatGPT? And I think a lot of it was also more like basic SEO stuff that we never really thought about. Like just make sure that the headings are fine and the URLs are okay, and just like the really basic stuff. And that came only really late for us. So I started focusing on that a bit more. And then just saw yeah, growth increased a lot, especially it started with ChatGPT, but now Claude is getting a lot more users. And we just see our graphs just follow their new releases, right? Like suddenly we saw Claude popping up, and now that is becoming the biggest one. And it for us, it's now just learning like, okay, what can we do as a bootstrap team compared to like we have the organic growth and that will keep on going and that will always be the strength behind Tally. But then, we have competitors like a Jotform. They have a content team, I believe it's more than 100 people. There's no real point in competing with them. But then we learned like, oh, we can just write one simple page. Um, Maybe we find some content gaps and then it will get picked up by LLM. So somehow the game kind of changed. And so that's stuff we're working on more right now. While before it was really like organic growth, building in public, me also just doing support. Now there's a support team, right? Now there's some engineers, so there's a bit more time to think about the next steps for Tally. But I think that has been the biggest change, but still just powered by all the free users that keep on making forms and that keep on helping us grow.
So a lot of people say that freemium are a really bad idea for a lot of SaaS. And
Yeah.
for you especially, it's a really good one because as you say, it's kind of an organic word of mouth because people share form and there is, I forgot the sentence, but created by Tally, for example,
Yeah.
at the bottom. And this alone is your biggest distribution channel or before LLM maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. Indeed. Yeah. So that's it. And yeah. Sorry.
No, no,
Go
continue.
ahead. Yeah. It is. And I think to be able to make that work, you need to go full in on the freemium, right? You need to have an actual free tier. It cannot be like try it for one day and then put the credit card. Like there's none of that. You don't even need to create an account. If you start using Tally, if you just go, you've never used it, you go to tally.so, you can immediately build a form. It's just there, right? So you immediately see what it can do. And then if you want to publish it, you create an account. There's no credit card. There's no long questionnaire. There's nothing like that. You're just in, and it has a very generous free tier. I think those two things are really important to be able to have the product-led growth. And obviously, forms being viral by nature, you have the same with websites, for example, or you build a lovable app, you'll also see the made with lovable badge in there. And that little badge has been responsible for most of our growth. And I truly believe that we would not been able to grow fast without the freemium, because that would
Mhm.
have required, that would also mean we would compete with all the big players. And they have big teams, big budgets. Would have meant probably raising money, paying ads, doing a lot of things that we also just didn't really want to do.
Well, I think it's one of the most generous, maybe the most generous actually freemium on internet because actually, yeah, you can do a lot of things on it. Um, how do you maintain that actually? You say that the paid user kind of pay for the freemium.
Mhm.
How do you keep this balance and how do you stay actually profitable with that? If someone want to try a freemium on his SaaS tomorrow, for example.
Yeah. So for us, the economics still work, right? I think we have like 1.8 million users, and there's 16,000 paying users right now. So as long as we can offer support with a small team to that big of a user base, it's okay. As well, building and hosting a product like Tally, like I think for a long time, our biggest bill was like our Google Cloud bill in the first years, and I think it was less than €1,000. So Tally was super profitable from the start. And we've been very careful with spending money. So if you do want to offer that much for free, we did everything ourselves for, you know, 3 years, I would say, before we hired someone. So we did invest, a lot of time and resources into it. Uh, we haven't spent on big marketing campaigns or anything like that. We still don't have a designer, for example, in the team. We launched with we didn't have a website. It was just the builder. So you just go straight into the builder. Um, we didn't have any branding. I think we used like this free illustration kit that we found online for. I think we reused it until we had 1 million ARR. So just being very careful with spending, and, being patient on that front. Uh, and then obviously we did start seeing the effect of the free users spreading the product, more free users coming in. And we didn't have to do anything for that. And we realized that 2% of those free users would convert to Tally Pro, which is how we make money. So for us, the more people come in, the better. And we just take a small percentage of that. And that's how we grow, how we make money, how we can build a team. Uh, So I think it's a bit of a conviction as well, like, it's just the type of product that we want to build. I think if you want to grow faster or want to make more money faster, it's probably not the smartest thing to do. If your product, if you're selling to enterprises or you need compliance from day one, right? You won't, or you need a sales team, you won't be able to bootstrap it, or you won't be able to offer it for free. Um, so I think it really depends on the type of product and industry you're in as well. I don't think you can apply this model to anyone. Like it
Mhm.
needs to be the right product. So if you would like to, yeah, copy the playbook.
And if you could right now talk to Marie and Philip from 2020, is there anything that you could tell them right now to make it faster or like be successful faster or like have a better product faster or whatever?
I'm not sure. I think the special thing about us is that also the phase in our lives that we were in, we have a 2 and a 5-year-old, so they were both born during, after we launched Tally. And so it also means that in the first years, I had 2 pregnancies. I wasn't able to work or to put in the hours that I can right now. I think one thing we did learn is that it's not that easy to combine a family with a startup. And the more hours you put in, the faster you will grow. I'm super convinced of that. Even though we have built this organic flywheel, it's just the more things you can try on a day, and the more, yeah, just the more time you put in. It's simply anyone can build right now, but you need to put in the hours to be able to grow. I think that's something we already knew back then. We just made it a bit more difficult because we wanted to do everything at the same time, which wasn't the most, sustainable situation. I'm really glad that we managed to do, and there's a lot more structure right now. But you need to be able to go full in. I think then you can grow faster. I think part of the reason why we were slower is because we did struggle with time and energy and being new parents and being both of us in the business, right? In the first years, and you kind of see that in the graph as well. So I think that's one thing. It's not something I would change. It's just you're naive as a first time parent. Um, Anything else? I think I would invest in SEO probably earlier and just be a bit more aware of that. And I would also hire sooner. Like we waited very long. We basically burned out and then hired our first customer support manager, I think after 2.5 or 3 years. And of course, there was not that much money coming in, but we could afford someone. I think we just got used to just building by ourselves, and we were not sure how it would go, like having a team or a remote team or local. I don't know. Those are things we weren't thinking about. So that took a while. And yeah, I think we should have taken that step a bit earlier to have more headspace.
You know SEO works, you just don't have the time for it. But every day you spend postponing boring marketing is another win for your competitor who already ranked #1 on Google. Take this example. If you have a social media scheduling tool, then people will look for that on Google. They will search exactly this keyword, and as you can see, there is 3,400 people who are looking for this exact keyword every single month on Google, which means that there is 3,400 chances for you to convert these visitors into customers. And this works for any kind of product. People are searching on Google trying to find the best product in this market. And if you want to convert these people into customers, you have no choice but to show up in this zone. The only thing you have to do is to kickstart your SEO now, so it will compound over time. But I understand, you're probably way too busy trying to improve your product. That's why we built this trip. You just have to create an account, add your website, and we take care of everything. We write and publish daily content for you, build backlink from real businesses, so your brand shows up on Google and AI search. If you want to give it a try, you can click on the link in the description to get your 3 days free trial. Now back to the episode. How did you go from a solopreneur, you were co-founder, to actually having a team? Like, how was the transition? How did you learn that? And who were the first person you actually hired?
Yeah. So the first person was Richard, and he was in that Slack channel that I mentioned before, and he was already helping out people. So he was basically doing the job, and we just started paying him for it. Like that was as simple as it was. We noticed there was like this one really difficult edge case that the user was struggling with, and he found a solution, and it was something we hadn't thought of. And I remember Philip saying, like, hey, this guy on Slack, like, did you see his answer? That's pretty smart. And then, the day when we decided we need someone, we just offered Richard a job, and we're glad he took it. So that was the first person. So it was first customer support, and then we tried hiring engineers. Engineers in Belgium are quite expensive. So first we just looked for people. I think it was on Twitter and also on Upwork, and we found someone. Well, we found two people at the time, and we thought, okay, we'll just try and see how it goes. It was quite difficult for us. Like we had never had a remote team before. Like we were always used to working in office. Obviously, there's also us two living together and talking about everything, and then suddenly, there's like more people in the team, so that was quite difficult. I think also communication wise, expectation wise, and after a few months, we were like, this model doesn't really work for us. Um, and then we decided to make it was actually like this big switch. We were like, okay, we just want to work with people together, like in house. But we didn't have an office at the time. So where I'm sitting now, it's like this startup campus that opened in the city where we lived, and it was just the right timing. So we joined here, and then we hired But we had hired more support people, and then also actually a friend who was a full stack engineer. He joined us. And now we are with 3 engineers. It's still Philip and myself. We have one marketing manager who joined a few months ago, uh, and a support team of 4 people. That's kind of how the team shaped. So the first hire was customer support. Then we tried some remote engineers, found it really difficult. And now the engineering team is here with us in Ghent. I'm marketing manager as well. And the support team is spread around the world because we need to cover the different time zones. And we learned that for us, this is like, it's easier when we're all at the same table and we're just talking, and we something comes up over lunch or at the coffee machine. We never work from home. We come to the office every day. So it's completely different than the life we envisioned, like coding on the beach and um, living in Bali, or at least that's the dream I had. And now we just, yeah, we drop the kids off at school, we go to work, we pick them back up, and it changed a lot. But I think it's for the better. It brought us more structure, and now the team, some people have been there for 1 or 2 years, and the next goal is like, how can we make ourselves a bit less important, right? Like for a very long time, everything that was marketing or ops was just me, and then everything product is Philip, uh, which is also something we cannot keep up for that many more years. So yeah, trying to find people that are better at all these things than ourselves. Trying to build this little, tally machine of people that love, building something that is used by a lot of people that love to put in, and have a good eye for detail and for design, that care, as much as we do. So it's not always easy to find the right people. But I think today, also with the help of AI tools, that you can do so much with such a small team. So actually, I feel like with a team of 10, I don't think we ever need to hire a lot more people. We think we have our team set. I think the team being small is also kind of our strength. Nowadays.
Yeah, I believe so. What is the future of Tally? Because in, I think, the 12 past months, you made more revenue that you did in the years before, since the beginning. So you have this exponential growth thanks to LLM, but also with all the work that you did before. So what is the future for Tally? How do you see Tally in the next few years?
Yeah, good question. I find it lately. I find it a hard one to answer because the world is changing so fast. It's maybe a bit of a cringe answer. Um, so I'm not sure what will happen. What we're seeing right now is that AI, especially, people vibe coding, it's actually helping us in a positive way. You hear everyone talking about the SaaS apocalypse and we're not going to exist anymore. But, we're kind of seeing the opposite thing for now, where a lot of people are building products and a lot of people just want a simple form to plug in, and don't necessarily want to build the whole backend. So that's working in our favor. The same thing as the LLMs picking this up. So I do think we will be able to continue the growth trend for a while. We're hoping to get to 7 million, by the end of this year, beginning of next year, and then we'll see. I think as long as we enjoy what we do, and as long as the model keeps working, then we'll keep on building Tally. I think the biggest challenge this year was to build the team. We're almost there. Um, Next year we'll see. I always think I see us, building to 10 million, which always seemed kind of like the biggest milestone or we could reach, and then we'll see. So that's definitely a couple of more years. but it's hard to say. Like I stopped doing big announcements about the future because it really changes every year. So not sure, but I do feel like we can continue the growth for at least.
Do you do anything right now to prepare the future? Because you say you hear a lot about people who say it's the end of the SaaS because of vibe coding. Do you think there is anything you can do to protect Tally from that, and maybe that other people could do as well to have this moat?
Yeah, I think one thing that I've also heard before is the pricing. If your pricing is low enough, um, you will less easily be canceled because someone can really easily, duplicate you with a cloud skill. Um, so I think that kind of plays in our favor. What we're also working on is just making the tool um, easily accessible by LLM. That's MCP, for example, right?
Mhm.
So we're also building AI into the product. I think what's even more important is that through the MCP, you can just use Claude and say, hey, build me a form, show me my last submissions, show me where I can improve the form, and also do it for me without leaving your chat or without leaving, whatever AI assistant that you use. And I'm assuming, this will become even more important because people don't really visit your website anymore, right? They might not even see the interface anymore because they'll build somewhere else. So I think that's something we are focused on is like, how can we make that experience again as simple and as frictionless as possible, but then in the LLMs and not in Tally itself. That's what we're busy with right now. Um, and I think besides that, it's true that everyone can build nowadays, but I don't think everyone can sell their products. And I think the brand becomes more important as well. You see a lot of people betting on, in real life connections, doing events, doing meetups, but also having the founders stepping forward more, doing founder-led marketing. And those are things we've done that since day one, and you do see it becoming more important because the story, is what will make the product more unique than the product itself. Because we see new competitors popping up every day, which is also a downside of building in public. Everyone's like, "Hey, I'm also going to make a form builder." Replicate success. So yeah, I think those are things we're thinking of. How can we really make the product as flexible as possible and put it in the hands of the users and the agents and so on. Make sure that it plays very well with the lovables and the other tools. So yeah, but we'll need to talk again in a few years.
Well, I think first you do that really well because I was using Tally with my OpenClaw, and that was amazing because it was basically building the form without me even going on the website, sending the form with the link to other people. It was seamless. So I think you're doing a good job on that.
Oh, that's cool to hear. Yeah, I didn't test OpenClaw yet, but glad to hear that it's working well.
Well, as you said, we'll have another talk in few years. But until now, thank you very much, Marie, for your time. And I wish you the best with study.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.